Another way to go to this approach, I think that there are many ways to classify museums, art, science. I think that a sound approach is the silent and the noisy museums. The first category of museum, the silent museums, are the art museum, where you go and you see something that you know already, and with your culture you are astonished because of that. Or if you don't know, you are astonished because you inside the museum know that that is important. These are the silent museum where the people just walk all around the galleries, silently, like in a church. That are the perfect museum for the audio guides, where you have violins and the voice out that this is the gallery of this and that. And the curator said, in my experience, I can say, look this, look at that. Silence. But at the end, after 20 minutes, after 1 hour, everybody takes at least the full scene to be active, or they stop to listen, because it's in our human way to look at around, to be actor, to do something. The noisy museum are our museum, the science museums, where look at this, no, you are wrong, now allow me to do. And there are the social activity that we have, the interaction among the visitors. I think that this is an approach that can work even in art museum, natural history museum, because what I think is important of our museum is not what we as curators say to the visitors, but what the visitors have inside them, through the eyes, through the ears, through the hands. The interpretation, the learning. In italiano noi diciamo divulgazione. That means we say it to you. But they say learning the approach. La società apprendente. And so when we work in a museum, I think that we have to tackle with the envisioning, what is the beauty, but even to allow the people to be very active inside there. A short story about this new museum focused mainly on the different media we use. And so I have to lose many other activities like theater, enjoyment, night in the museum, many other things of the activity of the museum. I am going to focus only on that. Look, we are far inside the mountains, a little city. We are not in the capital of the culture or the capital of the wealthy world, and so only 100,000 people living in Trento, and we are managing a network of museum. And we opened this new museum less than 7 months ago. I'm happy to say that before the end of this month we will reach 300,000 visitors. But as I say every time, I'm not so interested in the numbers of the heads or the bottoms come inside the museum, but the smiles of the people going outside. And so it's the experience what doesn't. Okay, it's important for hotels, restaurants, and shops, but and that is part of our job to take about the economics. But our main focus is on society and education, and then some economics. If we can say a sort of vision is the place of cultural interpretation for the local community and the visitors, tourists, many, where nature and mountain landscape, science, innovation are interpreted in the perspective of sustainability. This is just an experiment. You know, when you go in a naturalist museum, you think that by law, this museum has to be a conservative museum speaking about nature from the point of view of the environmentalistic approach against the innovation, against the technology, against the capitalists that make money with the innovation, the technology. But if you use the perspective of sustainability, that is the only way that we have possibility to survive not because of the planet Earth, because the planet Earth in a couple of millions of years can invent another leading species instead dinosaurs, humans, something else. And so it's only for us that we have to work with sustainability. I think that, and we tried to do a job where science and nature stay together. We had the opportunity to be elected as the cultural place within a project of refurbishment, rejuvenation of a part of the city. This is a very classical history of the last 20, 30 years of many cities of Europe. This was some sceneries of, you see the town is really little inside the mountains. This has been the first, the place where we developed our job now. It was the first big plant we had in Trentino. It was Michelin, and it was a gift after the First World War from the French people because we were allied. Nice history. I don't go on with that fact. Now, after 10 years of project, the area has been built up, and the new museum is working. We had the first feasibility study in 2003, and we opened 10 years after. Starting with the technologies, the large use of technology, we didn't open the museum. We did a big festa. I don't know how to translate. Yeah, 30,000 visitors, we don't count them now because they didn't pay, came staying with us. And so since the beginning, we did a big declaration, a very open museum, open to the community, doing a lot of music and activities. And the science of the digital projection of the walls has been just the first approach we gave to our visitors. And today, it's not my task today to explain in detail the organization of the museum, but if you see the arrow, you have the Department of Research. We have something like 50 researchers in natural science. The lobby, that is a place that is where we have the counters, but where we have every night music or other activities, or companies that came to have the dinners or catering for their activities. The verticality of the mountains from the glacier to the fossils, and this is a way to interpret, to explore the local approach we have on our environment and the global approach we have with the planet Earth. Do you remember, think globally, act locally? This is one of the ways we can express in few words our museum. And look, we are so global that we have a rainforest, because it's many years that we work in Africa, not just for butterflies, but because we do a lot of international cooperation with that territories. And so we support education, activity, consultancy activity to manage the forests, and doing the summer schools for students. And we have a permanent field station, and this alliance among the mountains of the world for the conservation of the environment together with the local communities has been given with this greenhouse. This is a place inside. You can see it's very open, it's a big place with this large big void. All these suspended animals is very light in the sense of the light. They are not black houses, it's not a black box, but it's very light because everything is suspended. And this is because we had a lot of discussion, a very creative discussion with the architect Renzo Piano, and we decided to make everything with this concept of zero gravity. That is a mistake in physics, but low gravity. Everything is suspended, floating. And now I'm going to pass through some examples of the exhibition showing the relation between the traditional exhibits and the use of multimedia. Let me see just a basic concept that we approached when we started to project the museum, and focusing on which relationship with new technologies, with video and ICT technologies. As we produce exposition giving the maximum effort to the intelligibility of the context through a proper labeling, a very accurate test with a big effort in copywriting, good object, good graphics. As we try to realize exhibits that produce emotion and engagement, as we do all this because we want to communicate and provoke an efficient interpretation from the visitors and make them happy, free, quiet, engaged. So all the technology we use have to be part of their technological capability to work with. And so we decided to use the technologies that the visitors already know. Not to use the museum of the experiment of our curiosity with some strange cutting-edge technological toys that are beautiful for us, interesting for us, but may be really complicated and out of the cognitive threshold of our visitors. Look, very traditional exhibit, an immersive place where the people, after 4 stores walking, they sit down and they stay in the mountains. And so the use of large immersive exhibits are used just to recreate an immersive situation. In the science museums, they have 4 dynamic cinema. Is something like that. So that is not really a technological novelty. You can have, in Italy, you know, Gardaland, there are a lot of this, but people like that. And if you use them, this kind of interface, just to perceive the openness of the landscape on the mountains, is a way to provide quietness of the visitors after 2 hours of visits. Really, at Sunday in the afternoon, after 2 or 3 hours of visit, the people are sitting down with all the mountains around, just like we, when we go up to the mountain, we are very tired and we stop and to stay half an hour to look around. The only different thing that they cannot drink a grappa or something like that. What about the texts? You know that science has to be spiegata, shared, and we have to speak, to talk, to write. We had a period in the 70s when the Science Museum were booked on the floors, on the walls. Everything was written, because there was too much to say. Okay, now we have our curators that have been engaged as actors. We have a lot of video diaries where they tell and present to our visitor their scientific experience. And so 1 minute, 1.5 minutes of true story with experiments in the hand, and these people that are the scientists of the museum are directly in contact with the these researchers are in direct contact with our visitors. And this allows you to simplify the way to present scientific contents, because there is a researcher that is telling to you the content of the exhibit. Of course, a lot of interactives. Look, when you have an object, the object usually presents a situation. And if you have to present a process, a process much more complicated. You can do a lot of apparatus, like in the physics is easier. You have a tilted flat, boom, is easy. But sometimes to have the climatic change, that is a process. It's not so easy. And so the technologies are perfect, and now everybody is able to touch and to move. And so that is very simple. Young people, old people, they stay and interact with this. Film. We like very much to go to the film or at home to look at films. And so we did a lot of short part of films given in the exhibition to tell stories about discoveries, about an adventure in mountains. Again, in this case, we have a whole archive of movies in the context of the high mountains, coming from an international festival we have in our city. And so people sit for 20 minutes just because they like to see how was the way to present and to do film 10, 20, 30 years ago. Of course, we have the possibility to have an experiment and to send an email with your pictures. And so in this case, you are crossed by rays coming from cosmic rays. And we have, of course, the objects, natural objects, particularly not hidden and by screens, by glass. The particularity of this museum that you can really very carefully touch the object. And we use technology sometimes to do something funny. When you arrive, the fishes that you can only see here, they escape away. And so it's just something tricky, something funny, that you find a sort of artificial creek, river, where the fishes are moving and escaping when you arrive. Or some birds that stop or start to sound if you go. Young people, not only young people, like very much to interact and to play. And so to present the scientific fact that migration is an adaptation for food, and the migration itself is part of the life of this animal. And during the migration, the animal have to engage a proper strategy to survive. We made just a joke where the visitor is a bird and has to find the food, has to avoid the bad weather, and has to arrive to south in the Africa, south the Sahara. And that's just a game. People like very much documentaries. Piero Angela has still a big share of Italians. And so sometimes you have a very nice, short documentary with nice pictures, like a close-up with the bears. And people stay. They're very lucky to touch the bear, but to have this motion, because it's part of our experience. Children like very much to engage with they are much better than us because they are much more quicker, and they understand this is an ecological chain. We can explain the ecological chain, this and that. They practice the ecological chain, just gaming. Art. We have the organization of the exposition sometimes complicated. In the case of this case of geology, we have this typical stratigraphy of geology of the Dolomites. Then we speak about the relation man and mineral resources and geology, that is mines and the history of the mines, something for the archaeologists. And then at the end, we have another relation, society and geology and environment, that is the risk, the environmental risk. How to manage in only one concept, this concept. And every floor we have this problem to connect everything. We asked to the students of the art school of 18th years old to think about that and to invent a story. This is the sbarco from the elevator. I don't know how to translate. Is the first thing that you see when you go outside the elevator. And they used this history, a boy and a girl with all the clay on the face. And after a few seconds, the water is coming on the face. It's cleaning, eroding. That is a good metaphor of the building up of the mountains and the problems of the weathering. And so how the climate, from this point of view, even art and the perception through art can be part of the museological experience against processes. You can use multimedia not only individually but as a big lavagna, I don't know, blackboard. And so you can use what is going on for many for a class group. In this case, you have a history from the early beginning of the Dolomite until the environment today. Again, interactions. In this case, I would like to show, I have to tell you what is this. The visitor is in the hall of the environmental risk and civil protection, and the visitor is invited to act as an environmental protector. And so the system asks you, you have to say to the people if this weekend they are allowed or they can go to the mountain skiing. Is a period of avalanche. You have to decide if it's good or not to go there. And so the visitor have to collect all the information about weather forecast, temperature, and to realize the degree of risk, and so interaction. The history of disasters, 30 years of news from the Italian television that allow you to understand how risky is our territory. Some mistakes. The monitor is too high, so we will inverse the situation. Look, the problem of prehistory, how to manage with important part of our collection, like the very little arrowheads, flint arrowheads, and try to make them engaging. So we decided to have a traditional presentation of the object with figures that are nice to see, and immersive spaces where you have the first close up with the hands that are doing something and the environment all around. And again, is how to use movies as in a creative way. Actors sometimes, to attract people with strange situations. In this case, we are speaking about sustainability. A sphere. There are 400 different programs here. From the state of the weather, you have Fukushima, Science of the Sphere from the NOAA. That is a big success. I think that we can have the same. But it's interesting to see the degree of Facebook connections or the degree of connection with airplane during the days of the hours of the day. I think that the same programs we have a big success. Traditional approach of multimedia approach with monitor, and you have to move something. Against art, this is tree of life. And together with this, that from the archaeozoa until the mammals, you have against on the other side the biology that is given with very traditionally Pierangela-like style. and people like to be there. But look, it's not strange that somebody say, I'm very satisfied about this exhibit because it's so clear. And we ask when we do evaluation, yes, it's clear, but it's not the same thing that you can see at the television. Yes, but we are in the museum. And so the same object that is a clip about science is perceived in a different way because you are inside the museum. And so you are, from the point of view of your willingness to learn, to stay, a different approach with this. Again, we have a launch pad, very interactive, and we decided not to force this part with the other subject of the museum. The interactivity that is physical but can be supported by kinetics and other things are very nice things, are very active. You can use even as a gym along the stay in the museum because children and families can interact. But we think that the approach, the physical approach that a typical hands-on museum has is slightly different with the other part of the museum. Have you seen we have a Fab Lab inside, and so the new technology with Arduino or with the plotter, 3D plotter, is part of the presentation of the new science. Okay, I don't go on with Facebook site. This is very normal. Up to now we have 21,000 followers, and we have a couple of persons that permanently work on that. Because of course this is a promise that you do with your visitors. And so if you have a promise, you have to maintain. So people are working efficiently to do that. I'm just going to close about an experiment we are going to develop, an experimental project, is financed. We are developing a project on tablets. It's not too easy to read, sorry. It is in Italian. With Explorer, the lens, we mean to use the tablet to enlarge and to get inside the content. It's just how to go in the detail of all the information that we can have from an object. Percorsi tematici is something that is given and you use the tablet, we will see, with the map, and he recognizes where you are going and help you to find a street or to tell to you where you are. Wikimuse is a part of the Explorer. That means that we connect the information with the main information that you find on the web. Multimedia, the map, the possibility to profile the visitor and to reach after with newsletter, questionnaires, and so on. Newsletters, social networks you can use to take pictures and to send directly on your Facebook, to prepare a diary that you can maintain after the visit. Gaming, storytelling, drama. Drama means that there are a story that happens and to go on with the history of the drama, you have to interact and to see something or interact with other visitors in order to reach the end of the story. Okay, up to now we are developing the first 4 projects, and we hope to be able to demonstrate and to use and to test them before the end of the spring. In order to localize the tablet, we use a very dense grid of Wi-Fi's, and these beacons that are hidden in some places where, and this beacon has an array of 3 meters and permit to address specifically the area. And from that point, you can take a sort of picture and have an augmented reality result of that, interact with the augmented reality. We did a lot of usability tests. I don't think that we have the time and the wish now to get in the detail of the project, but you can understand that when you arrive and you see a situation, plenty of objects, you have the opportunity to select, but the system recognizes without to push number and so on what you are. Okay, something that we discovered that almost 44% of the visitors have their Wi-Fi open. And so it has been very easy to track the visitors. And we can have a detailed map of where they go and how much they stay. We have some ethic problems. We have to advise, look, if you have your Wi-Fi open, you can be tracked. But of course, together with other evaluation systems, directly following the visitors or doing questionnaires, this is really a very effective way to improve the efficiency of the system. Look, we can define floor by floor how many people, how much they are staying, the medium time of staying there, and so we can even profile how much to put inside or to add the content or to take away content about these very basic numbers. Look, after that, people like very much to perceive the heat of a greenhouse. They like very much to go around the museum during the night to take pictures when the weather is nice. Couples and people are just coming because it is a good thing to stay in a context like a museum when it's open. We open every Wednesday the museum until 11 o'clock. The first Wednesday of the month is given mostly on naturalistic subject with little conferences and we guest association. The second Wednesday is given to science and technology subject, and so we invite engineers. And the third is about music, art, and entertainment, and the fourth is music. And so every week there is a day that the museum is open for the community. Okay. The museum are not their collection, but the people that visit them. This is my really personal thought. Thank you very much.
Well, I think that all the 3 speakers of this morning gave us a lot of food for mind. I think in order to approach our ways to, as we realize, to share information, because from our point of view, we have our point of view, of course, by having to manage the museums, but we have more and more be aware of taking into account the point of views of the people who is actually coming to our museums, because we are not making museums for ourselves. We are making museums